Hey guys, I'm having this fantastic chat here today with the one and only Xbox Lucio, also known as Mike. Feel free to introduce yourself.
Going on, guys? How you all doing?
Yeah.
we
So, oh, sorry, yeah.
no, you keep going, man.
I was just gonna say, I guess a lot of people who are watching this probably know of who he is, but I guess if you don't, he's been a streamer. He's big time gamer. Pops off on Lucio. You may have seen him around on that. I guess yeah, if you wanted to introduce yourself further, feel free
Yeah,
to.
yeah, no, of course, no. Obviously, look, my battle tag there is the Xbox Lucio. I am that filthy Lucio running around in your backline, terrorizing your team. Yeah, no, look, I mean, I've been in the content creation game for just a touch over 3 years now. Obviously, come from a bit of a journey from console to PC, hence the name. And yeah, look, I mean, I've been playing games since I was a kid, so quite a long time. And Overwatch is just one of those games that's really caught me, and here I'm creating content for it now. So that's pretty much been me. So
Very nice, very nice. And look, that's an awesome journey, and it'd be awesome to kind of touch up on that. But I guess to begin with, it'd be interesting to kind of know about the history of kind of how you've been involved in gaming and how that's evolved over time.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, absolutely. So for myself, like growing up, I always was a console gamer. I've been on Xbox since I was, God, like we're talking like Halo 2 days here, man.
Oh, yeah.
I was a huge Halo fan, so I played competitive Halo pretty much from Halo 2 all the way through up to about Halo 4, I believe it was. So that was like Reach and Halo 3 and everything as well. So yeah, fell in love with pretty much first person shooters from those kind of games, and always felt like a big controller warlord. I
Yeah,
thought I was
yeah,
unstoppable on the sticks.
yeah.
And pretty much as we progressed through, as everyone did, we went into like the Call of Duty days and Modern Warfare 2. We all had that phase as well. So
Yeah.
progressed through there, and then we eventually started moving into Overwatch. I actually was traveling over in Europe with my brother and a couple of my family members. And
Yeah.
I was on a bus one day, and I saw I saw a clip of Hans on Facebook, and I'm like, this game looks absolutely insane. So
Yeah.
I come home, and that was actually when it was in its beta, and I bought Overwatch on its first day when it released, and here we are now.
Right. Wow. What a journey. What a journey for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeez. So, okay, if I'm going to the beginning of that, you mentioned, I guess, Halo, playing Halo competitively, all that sort of stuff, right? So, I guess when you say that, like, what capacity were you playing it in? Was it tournaments? Was it with like teams? How'd you play it?
Yeah, yeah. So I played pretty much in tournaments, in LAN tournaments. With that, they were competing at one point even against people overseas as well. Obviously, the
Wow.
connection difference was a bit
Yeah.
bit bad. But for Halo 3, I was ranked 53rd in Australia for that game.
Wow.
I was a very competitive player. I played a lot
Wow.
of
Yeah.
4v4 Slayer, a lot of doubles. And yeah, we competed at a couple of LAN tournaments. Didn't have too much luck there, but the game was great. It was just after Halo like ventured from being with Bungie and they moved into 343 Studios, the game didn't change drastically, but the style of the game wasn't as how can I say, it was a bit quicker where they
Yeah.
introduced like sprinting and things like that. So it didn't have that same kind of like OG Halo feel for me, and that's where I started to kind of just drop off a bit. So
Yeah. Look, that's totally fair enough. And look, it sounds like you've got a good amount of experience with all that under your belt. I think I find a lot of people who get into, I guess, the overall scene, esports scene or whatnot, they do tend to have that kind of prior experience that kind of builds up over time. And I've seen that a bit even with some of the people who are at the high levels of Overwatch. Some of them were competing in other games or have moved on to competing in other games, so you can kind of see that happening. So that's really cool that you're able to do that. I have to ask one question. What's your favorite weapon from Halo?
oh man, I'm a battle rifle fan.
Battle rifle. Oh
Anyone
yeah.
that says the DMR is better than the battle rifle just needs to really rethink their decision.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's fair enough. Okay, so that sounds like it was a really, I guess, interesting experience in being able to kind of go through that process. I mean, as we've kind of seen with things like Overwatch, you kind of have the great moments and then you have moments where things change and they're not as good. Brigitte. And I guess you kind of follow that through, even though sometimes it may not be the best, but you enjoy it at the end of the day, and it's something that you've got to drive for, which is really cool to see. Um, So there was the whole, I guess, Halo stuff. Now, besides like I guess Halo, Overwatch, all that sort of stuff, are there any sort of other, I guess, genres of games that you kind of like?
I mean, like when I was like playing Halo in between, I used to always play like a little bit of like Assassin's Creed and like Skyrim and things like that. But nowadays, like I don't really. It's people think I'm an absolute lunatic when I say this, but I've been playing Overwatch straight for 6 years. I have not played another game in 6 years. Like
Wow.
even all these new releases of like Call of Duties and even like I
Yeah,
played the new Halo maybe for about honestly like 3 days and I hated it and I
three
went straight
days.
back to Overwatch. Like
Okay.
yeah, people think I'm a bit of a lunatic when I say that, but it's actually true.
Look, no, honestly, that's completely understandable. Look, first of all, good on you. You have no commitment issues. Hats off to you, right? Secondly, I mean, look, that's fully understandable. Overwatch has this kind of thing where it really it draws you in. It really draws you in because there's just so many different things that just happen all the time. I mean, nowadays more than before, but regardless, yeah, it's something that you can keep coming back to. I think that's kind of the main thing you can take out of it. So, 100% understand that. And look, absolutely love the Elder Scrolls series. So awesome that you played Skyrim. Love that game to bits.
That's game.
Um, so good. It's so good. But yeah, okay. So you had all those games. You had your Halos. You had your Skyrims. All that sort of stuff. So I guess you eventually found Overwatch through a Facebook post of Hanzo,
Yep.
and you started off on console. So how? Tell me, like, how was console? What was that process like?
Console was it was an interesting start. I'll put it that way. Because the thing with console was a lot of the characters' bindings on default were never really, let's say, optimal for the hero.
Okay.
And I guess right now I'm kind of referring to Lucio here in terms of his
Yeah.
jump because they had his I actually got a controller here. They had
Oh
his
yeah.
jump on A. So
Okay.
whenever you want to jump and
Gotcha.
look at the same time, you actually couldn't do both.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
it made things very difficult. So I found a lot of people actually changing it over onto the left trigger, so then you were able to do the two at the same time. But
Yeah.
it was a little bit of a learning curve for console because the gameplay is a lot slower. Obviously, back in the day when Overwatch first came out, we were capped at 60 frames on console, so everyone
Yeah.
has to remember that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was a very different way of playing the game because on PC people were a lot better at hit scan heroes. So you'd have a Widowmaker on PC and they'll just dominate. But get a
Yeah.
Widowmaker in a PC in a console lobby, sorry, and it was very different. You
Yeah.
know, so I found there was substantially through over the years different metas that were played in different platforms and things like that. The community of I guess OCE in that regard was quite similar, where it was quite small. And to be honest, I've met still some of the best people I've met on Overwatch from console that
Yeah.
have moved over to PC as well. So,
Okay.
yeah, look, I mean, nothing against console at all. It was just for myself. I wanted to obviously move over to PC to meet more people and things like that, which we'll talk about later. But I loved the console community. I still do, and it was good fun while it was in its peak days in Overwatch One. So
Yeah. 100% understand that. And look, I've never played console before Overwatch. I've never, had it on like PS4 or Xbox or Switch even. I don't think I know anybody who's actually played it on Switch, but I'm sure there's.
I tried it once. It was
Yeah, how was it?
yeah, it was. I stole my wife's Switch and I played a game
Oh,
of it. And I'm just like, you know
yeah.
what? Look, I'm just not even gonna bother.
Yeah, no, I get you. I get you. Yeah, no, okay, right, fair enough. So all these console things, and yeah, I guess what you kind of said definitely makes sense. Some, I guess, heroes may not be as, I guess, effective, or people may not be able to use them as effectively, or yeah, the keybind point that you had there was quite interesting because I guess that's not something I've accounted for because I'm just so used to like having this full keyboard here. You can just make the binds, whatever, and any key you want is just like one thing across or whatever. Whereas, for a console player, you have to go around the back or here. It's that whole process. So I don't know. I guess I personally couldn't imagine playing Overwatch on console because I'm just not used to that sort of gameplay at all. But I can definitely see how you can get acclimated to it and how it can be pretty good. Like, there's actually something that um I don't know, occurred to me that some people have like a console peak versus a PC peak that they kind of discuss sometimes. So I don't know. I guess in your opinion, in terms of like competitive, let's just say, how do the two compare?
Console's way easier than PC. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna put it bluntly. On console, I peaked at 3900, but if I
Okay.
had to compare that to PC, they felt probably like maybe a 34 lobby, if I was going to
Wow.
be honest. And
Okay.
the thing that people always forget about console, and like one variable that's actually in, especially in the competitive scene above 3500, is that I'm talking Overwatch 1 here, but anyway,
Yeah.
um, above Masters is more so the fact that people do use sometimes what they call a ZIM. So a ZIM is
Okay.
basically a hardware that actually pops into their console and allows them to use a mouse and a keyboard, but still registers it as a
Oh,
controller. So
right.
the challenge is then you're now dealing with hit scan heroes that now have aim assist with a mouse, and that's where it starts to get pretty rough because
Yeah.
then, obviously we all know what comes with that.
Yeah, for sure.
And to be honest, it was very uncommon to find a controller player. I'd say above 3700. It was all
Really?
keyboard players at that point.
Oh, jeez. I don't know. I mean, that's it's kind of crazy to think about because in a sense, isn't that kind of I don't is that cheating? I guess that's kind of cheating. I don't know.
It's a very interesting one because yeah, do you define that as cheating? Because in my opinion, I don't feel like that actually falls on Blizzard or the Overwatch developers. I feel like that's a thing that falls on Xbox to actually deny that hardware.
Yeah, that's a good
Um,
point. Yeah.
but then at the same time as well, Xbox has also allowed mouse and keyboard for games on console like Call of Duty Warzone and things like that. So you can actually
Yeah.
choose which inputs. So where do you move forward from that moving into the future for Overwatch? You know, you allow
Hmm.
console people to play with PC, but they don't have aim assist. So if
Yeah.
you allow that aim assist, then you allow in that freedom of now mouse and
Yeah.
keyboard console players, you know, like
Yeah.
it's
Pretty much.
quite
Yeah.
pretty bad.
Yeah, no, that is bad. Jeez. Oh, I'm just thinking, like, these people who are using keyboard and mouse with aim assist, they're pretty much just soldier alting the entire time. Like, that's just what it sounds like.
I had actually had the opportunity to try one of the mouse and keyboards on console at my mate's place, and honest to God, if you miss a storm arrow as Hanzo, there's something wrong there. That's
Sure.
how easy it is.
Oh, goodness. Okay, right. Oh, that sounds like a challenge. I'll try to miss all of them.
Yeah, that's what it is. The challenge of Miss Hanzo storm arrow.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. Aye, aye. Right. Okay, so it's a lot easier on console, but then there's the people who kind of, end up using, mouse and keyboard and all that sort of stuff to kind of rig their way up. Actually, I don't know. Is there much of a contingency of like GM players on console at all, or not really?
You definitely had your share of GM players, like there were people that were peaking at like 4300 and things like that. But if you were to queue that on OC, I'd say
Yeah.
minimum 3 hour queue.
Jeez. Oh my goodness.
I used to queue 45 minutes to an hour for a Masters game.
My goodness. Actually, that puts me to an interesting point. Now, I don't know. I was kind of just thinking about it because I know sometimes on OC, or at least when the whole Singaporean has the Singaporean server thing been fixed, by the way? I think it
I
has been.
think it has actually, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking about it in this sense. Because sometimes I know that Overwatch can put you to kind of different servers and all that sort of stuff if you're not getting a queue. Sometimes. Was there any of that? Like, is that a thing on console at all, or not really?
I think I was, but latency was never really displayed on console, and we never really had the setting to turn it on.
Right.
So
Okay.
you kind of just saw people just, teleporting everywhere, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, yep, I'm
Course.
lagging.
Fair enough, fair enough. That's a good indication. Yeah, definitely, definitely. Okay, right. That's interesting. I guess, yeah. If I ever get to play a console, I'll see exactly what you're saying. I can't say I'll grind it out, but yeah, I'll give it a try just for
My
you.
only suggestion for anyone that is a console player and wants to, stay on console long term is to invest, especially if you're an Xbox player, invest in an Xbox Elite controller. The reason for that is on the back. I could show you here. You've actually
Yep.
got paddles, so you can actually add 4 buttons to the back of your controller.
Ooh,
So then that actually allowed you to jump and look at the same time.
that's
So
really
it
good.
just gave
Okay.
you a little bit more of a slight edge coming into those sort of scenarios where you need different keybinds as well. So.
Yeah. I guess that's kind of the equivalent of having, like buttons on your mouse or something like that, in a
Exactly
way.
right.
Okay, right. Interesting. Okay, cool. Look, that's good advice. Yeah, I don't know anyone who actually only plays console. Yeah, PC is where it's at, I think. But yeah, fair enough. Um, Okay, right. So in all of that discussion, so we discussed all about console now, which is pretty cool. Obviously you've moved to PC now. So what was the transition and that process like? Because it would be quite different.
Frustrating.
Yep. Fair enough.
It was very hard to accept that mechanically you no, sorry, you knew what you wanted to do, but mechanically you physically couldn't do it. Is
Ah, okay.
what it was.
Yeah.
So it took me, I'd say honestly, about a good 3 months before I could confidently play with a keyboard
Wow.
versus say 6 months until I was actually good.
Okay,
So
right.
I actually still even had my controller plugged in for the first maybe 4 months of playing on PC and still played
Oh
with
my
a
goodness.
controller. Funny
Yeah.
enough, I actually got masters with a controller, with Lucio, which was pretty hilarious.
That's quite good actually. Yeah, good
Um,
on you.
and yeah, like it was frustrating. So I actually took the time of, instead of actually playing Lucio and getting frustrated with like knowing what I need to do but can't actually do it, I actually decided to pick up a new hero. So I started learning Ana.
Okay.
So it actually kind of helped with the whole aiming with the mouse kind of thing at the start
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
And that really kind of helped me sort of get a little bit better and get over sort of that arc there from learning from controller. But now, honestly, if you were to put a controller in my hands, I couldn't use it.
Oh, 100%. That definitely makes sense. Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So, I mean, yeah, obviously, like mechanical difference is huge. It's oh yeah, yeah. I don't know, like if you've ever experienced this before. Have you ever played like a fighting game like Tekken or Soul Calibur or anything like that?
Long
Um,
time ago.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Fair enough. So pretty much, I find a lot of the times when people are playing it, it's with like a controller and stuff like that. Because I don't know, personally, I find it so much easier to use a controller for that sort of game. But if you were to do it on PC, and I tried this like last year, it is such a weird feeling. I just cannot play it on PC. So it's almost like kind of what you're saying, but flipped around. So
I feel that.
yeah,
I
yeah,
feel
I
like
don't.
that, especially with like racing games. I
Yes,
downloaded Need for Speed once, and trying to drive with a WASD, it was just like, just
yeah.
no, not for me.
100% agree. It's one of those things where if you kind of have to have a tactile feeling of something, like you are moving or controlling something, I don't know. I feel like a lot of times controller is good like that. But yeah, no, I definitely go what you mean. Okay, so the mechanics were quite different. That's a given, and it's good that you're able to play Ana to help you out and all that sort of stuff. Did you? So obviously, yeah, you're a Lucio main on console and all that sort of stuff. And when you transitioned over, did that kind of stay the same as well, or did you spread it out a bit more?
Yeah, it kind of stayed the same. Like I always was like a Lucio Baptiste player from console.
Yep.
It's as terrible as Baptiste was back then.
Ah,
And yeah, then I moved over and picked up Ana pretty much from that point as well. I've been honestly been playing Lucio since season one. You can even check my profile on that. Like I have
yeah.
not stopped playing that hero. I've clocked up over about 1,500 hours of him at the moment, and it just does not stop.
15. Oh my goodness. I actually did not expect that number. Wow, that is impressive. 1500. Ay, ay. Okay, right. You know what? You are a Lucio connoisseur. I will give it to you 100% through and through.
I'll take it.
No problems, no problems. I mean, look, it helps. Like the whole background there is green, everything's green. Like it's just 100% Lucio. That's all I'm seeing right now.
Even the headphones.
Even the headphones. Oh my god, I didn't even notice. Wait, do they have Lucio on them? Oh my gosh. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Is that like a custom thing or is it just what is that?
It was a limited edition headset from Razer back in the day. So they came out with
Oh,
a headset and a mouse pad.
yeah,
And they partnered with Overwatch. So I actually got these, and they're wireless headset, but I use them cabled just for like the Go XLR fitting and everything as well.
fair
But
enough.
they're incredible. They actually light up and everything too, so they sync with all of your keyboards and everything
Oh
too. So,
wow.
yeah, quite cool actually.
That's awesome. What the heck? Oh, bro, that's so cool. Okay, right. So you've got Lucio everything. Okay, gotcha. um, okay, so yeah, heroes stayed relatively the same. Mechanics obviously were a bit different. In terms of, I guess, the social aspect, the community aspect, how do you reckon that was different, if there was a difference?
I feel that the PC community was a lot more mature. if I'm going
Okay.
to be honest. I found that on console you did obviously get a little bit more of a younger generation playing on the game, and which is an obvious reason why PCs aren't really too cheap.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side as well, you had people that couldn't afford PCs. That's why they were using the mouse and keyboards on consoles. So
Yeah.
vice versa. But I found that the difference there was definitely a little bit more of a mature crowd on PC.
Mm.
And I found that I definitely have made a lot more friends a lot quicker on there because it was just a little bit more relatable, and you found people that wanted the same
Yeah.
things, a lot more creators and stuff on PC as well. Versus console, there wasn't really too many.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the PC community is much bigger,
Yep.
especially the OCE region was definitely much bigger than what console OCE was.
Yeah.
But the fact that now playing on PC and you can now VPN and go over and play with people in the States, you never really had that freedom on console. So it just kind of just
True.
opens the whole world up for yourself, really. So
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, like that's really, really good that you've been able to do that. And yeah, I have heard of all the stories about the console players with like either the fan whirring in the background or it's some maybe younger kid who's throwing swear words at you or something like that. I've heard all the stories, so look, that definitely makes sense. And yeah, look, I think there's a lot of great stuff with the actual OC community that we do have on PC. I think that there are a fair few more opportunities on PC as opposed to console. Sorry, console. So yeah, look, definitely the avenues are there. But yeah, no, that's definitely interesting to note and good to hear for sure. Okay,
sure.
so we've covered your past games. We've covered how, Overwatch went from console to PC and how that all happened. So that's pretty cool. I guess in all of that, so now you've been on PC for how many years now?
2 years, I believe it is now.
2 years. Okay, right. So I'd imagine that at this point you're probably quite used to it, yeah?
You have no
Relative.
problems with it at all.
Awesome, awesome. Hey, by the way, what is your peak rank and all that? I don't think I've asked.
4023 on PC.
Very nice. We have a GM in the chat, guys. Very nice.
I
No,
only
that's
just
awesome.
scraped it in on season 36, but GM is GM at the end of the day, so we take it.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Oh, look, that's really good. That's really good. Yeah. Okay, awesome. Well, hey, thinking about it, right? You're able to transition over and then you're able to even climb it from there. So I think that's more than what a lot of other people have been able to do. So good on you.
Thank you, thank you.
No problems, no problems. So, okay, now we're in the state where, we're on PC, all that sort of stuff. Overwatch 2. I will address the, I guess, kind of elephant in the room, Overwatch 2, right? It came out, I think now 2, 3 weeks ago, the 4th, something like that. So, yeah, the 5th for OCE, I think 4th for America. So,
Yep.
2 and a bit weeks. Yeah, I don't know. I guess in all of that, then Overwatch 2, we've had it for a few weeks now. What are your overall thoughts and how would you compare it to Overwatch 1?
It's a good question, actually. Overwatch 2 definitely is a harder game.
Yep.
If I'm going to put it out pretty straight, it's definitely a harder game. It's a lot more rewarding, but at the same time punishing.
Yep.
So the game definitely, how could I say, like playing as a support player, like it definitely feels that if you're making mistakes, you're definitely you're getting let know that you're making mistakes a
Yep.
lot quicker. So, like for example, just simple things like positioning or not using your abilities correctly, you get punished real bad for it.
Oh yeah.
At
Yeah.
the same time as well, it also feels like the game balance wise is in a I'd say like for like damage heroes and support heroes, it's actually in a pretty good state. It's
Okay.
just I just feel like in the tank department, there definitely needs to be a few changes happening over
Yep.
there as we're starting to see a very boring meta come upon us at the moment, which is
Yeah.
not the greatest to play into. But
Fair enough.
respect to the people that actually disregard the meta and play whatever makes them happy.
Fair enough.
Because I think that makes the game a bit more fun. But overall, look, I think Blizzard have done a phenomenal job with making the game. I think the 5v5
Yep.
definitely works well. The only thing I guess I would probably say I enjoyed more from Overwatch 1 to 2 is probably just the ranking system.
Yep, yep. Oh, look, that's fair enough. I guess it is interesting regarding the ranking system because they don't actually they don't show you specific progress. They just rank up. Here it is, right?
Yep.
Okay, right.
It's like you get an update on your rank every 7 wins or 20
Okay.
losses, so whatever comes first. But 90% of the time, you're going to win 7 before you lose 20 if you base it off a
Yeah,
50-50 ratio. So
that's correct. Yeah.
it's an interesting one because then I don't know, like I've heard a few people where they say, I just won 7 games and I got demoted. And you're like, wait, what?
Did you really win though? That's the real question. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's the interesting part there. I feel like where you got an update after every single game was definitely a little bit more of a good indicator as to where you're at. But like
Yeah.
I'd say maybe even give you an update after every 5 games, whether it's a win or a loss, and it just gives you an indicator where you're at. I
Yeah.
think that might be a bit better, but who's to say?
Yeah, no, definitely. I guess it makes me wonder, like, what the reason was, for them actually getting rid of the, specific progress and all that sort of stuff. I'm not too sure. I feel like being able to see how much you go up by or how much you go down by is probably a bit more gratifying. I guess as an individual, you kind of get to see, the merits that you have been able to get from your performance, or maybe how you didn't do too well. I suppose sometimes people are kind of thinking, oh, why did I lose this much? Oh, I shouldn't have gained this much. I guess maybe in that circumstance, I can kind of understand, like, oh, they don't want to push too much of like what's happening. But I don't know. I feel like, yeah, it is good to know where you're currently at. And I guess on the flip side, I kind of just thought about this now, actually. Devil's advocate. I guess if the people from Blizzard kind of want to give you the impression that in comp, no matter whether you're kind of close to winning or losing or whatever your rank or whatnot, they want your probably performance to be the same all around every game, or try to encourage you to do that. Obviously, people, we're people, we're not 100% consistent, we're not robots, so that's obviously a thing. But it kind of just occurred to me that maybe that's the reason why they've done that. I'm not sure.
I would agree. Like, I
Yeah.
think it definitely takes away from, how could you say, the toxicity part of competitive, where you have people that are like, oh my God, this person's a one trick, or this person doesn't
Yeah.
want to change, or whatever it is, or whatever
Yeah.
people may think the issue is. I
Yeah.
think the best thing that has come out of this is that realistically, people aren't looking at the game now at a um, win loss perspective. They're kind of
Yeah.
just looking at the game now where it's like, I just need to play better,
Yeah.
and
Very
and
true.
that's where the positive comes out of it. The flip side of that, though, is that I find that I'm getting games ridiculously quick. So then I
Yeah.
start to question who I'm grouping with because it doesn't
Yeah.
show me in the lobby the player rate base that I'm actually playing with. It's kind of
Yeah.
like I click into some profiles and I'm masters and I've got a platinum DPS and I start to ask questions, So then
Yeah.
that's the flip side of it is like, okay, quicker queue times, are they hiding the ranks because they want to make the queues faster and make the diversity wider? Like, I'm not exactly too sure. But either way, I
Yeah.
feel like coming into a second season, they're probably going to learn a lot from this season and just make it
Yes.
better. So,
For sure. This is definitely a pilot season. And look, I think there's been a lot of good that we've been able to come out from it as well. So that's pretty good. But yeah, no, definitely. That's a good point. That does bring. So I guess you mentioned, I guess, toxicity and all that sort of stuff. One thing that is an interesting introduction to, now Overwatch 2 is the whole transparent stats in the tab. So that is an interesting move, and like I personally like it, but I could imagine that maybe some people would try to use it as a way of being toxic. I don't like in terms of what you face, because I mean, I don't know. I feel like maybe you have played more of Watch 2 than I have. I don't know. How much have you kind of seen of that?
um, I actually had a few people today, kind of for the first time actually since launch, which was, to be honest, a pretty good record. We had two and a
Yeah,
half weeks. So,
that's pretty good.
but the thing is that people are starting to forget that the stats have changed.
Yeah,
Like, we're working in Overwatch 1 based off gold medals. You always had the more in
yeah,
your game, I'm on gold damage, and you're like,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
but at the same time as well, now it's changed because damage isn't everything in this game.
No, that's
you
true.
know, I feel like it's definitely how many times you die versus actually how many eliminations that you're getting rather
Yeah.
than the actual total count on a damage. Because
Yeah.
I look at a Widowmaker player, they're not going to be pumping out as much damage as, let's
No,
say, a Sojourn, but
of
they're
course.
hitting elims and they're not
Yeah.
dying.
Yeah.
And that's going to be more value to your team than what everyone else. So when they look at their damage, they go, they're doing nothing, but they've got all the final blows and they're picking off all the final kills. So
Yeah.
that's where I feel like there's going to be the misconception on leaderboards and like, I have the most damage in the lobby. It's like,
Yeah.
but does it matter? Like,
Yeah. If nothing's dying, then it's like, okay, cool. Nothing's dying. That's not good.
exactly. You
Yeah.
could just be shooting the tank the whole game and then just farming healing and getting, support ults off it. And it's just like,
Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
crazy.
100%. 100% agree with you there. Yeah. Look, that's definitely fair enough. And look, granted, I actually haven't played comp in Overwatch 2 yet. I kind of want to personally give it a bit of time, like probably until at least next month, just to kind of see how it is. Because I feel like there's a lot of things happening at once in terms of all the people that are coming into comp. Some really old players who may not be at their current level and all that sort of stuff. And just ranks are probably all over the place from what I've seen. So I'm kind of avoiding that a little bit. So I'm talking really from a quick play perspective. But look, I honestly haven't really seen too many comments on why is your stat so low or anything like that. Like, yeah, there's always going to be the people who are like, oh, trash DPS or whatever, right? Which obviously is not great. But I haven't seen too many comments about stats specifically. So I guess it is a good sign because I was a little bit, I suppose, apprehensive about it, about whether people would do that sort of thing. So I think if people can get positive information that can actually help them in these sorts of situations, then it's great. Which also brings me to, I guess, the other thing. So, when you press tab and all that sort of stuff, you've got the KDAs and all that sort of stuff, healing, mitigated damage, all that. You also have the stats on the right side, which I think are a bit different from the ones in Overwatch 1 as well. I think they're a little bit more in depth. So I don't know. I can't think of examples off the top of my head, but I guess have you found that to be kind of a helpful feature or something positive there?
Um, I don't know, it makes me laugh because it just makes me feel like for Lucio, it gives you a specific stat breakdown of how
Yeah.
much percent you're on healing and how much percent you're on speed. And I
Yeah.
look at that and I just get disappointed in myself most games because it's like 70% speed and 30% heals. And I'm just like, oh,
Yeah.
God, I'm that guy, aren't I? Um, but yeah, I do agree. Like, it's more insightful.
Yeah.
I just personally wish that it gave you like if I had to be fussy, like I
Yeah.
wish that it gave you a little bit more specifics on the total scoreboard to character specifics. And what I mean
Yeah.
by that is like, for example, Mercy's not going to be mitigating any damage, but she's
Yeah.
going to be damage boosting a heck load of damage.
Yeah.
So instead of having a mitigated column, I suppose it'd be hard to make it look nice, but it'd be nice
Yeah.
to see that statistic
Yeah.
itself. But the actual stats
True.
itself on the right side where it's giving you a bit more detail, like I think
Yeah.
it's fantastic. Like it just
Yeah.
gives you more of an idea of what you're doing. Like I even have, I think a player's knocked back as Lucio as a statistic, and that's great to know. Like it's something different. So
Yeah. Very true.
yeah,
Very true. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Conceptually, kind of like what you were talking about. I'm just thinking about if you, I guess, change that column specifically for, I don't know, like damage boost. I guess you can apply that to things like, I don't know, like Zen and all that sort of. I don't know. Would that apply to Zen? I don't know. Maybe.
I
I think.
guess so, because like they are essentially assisting kills. You know what I mean? Like same thing with like
Yeah.
Sombra as well. She's also
Yeah.
doing. She's a walking Discord now, but
Yeah.
you're essentially damage boosting for the rest of your team. I feel like something like that could fit in nicely into the scoreboard because it would definitely roll across so many specific heroes. Baptiste's window, how much damage did he amplify?
Yeah. True.
Things like that. It could definitely, work across many heroes, but I don't know, maybe in the long scheme of things, it's probably not the direction maybe they want to take. So,
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Look, that's entirely fair enough. Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. Yeah. No, that's true. I guess taking a step away from I guess the actual competitive gameplay side, something that they've done obviously quite different here. Not only is it free to play, but they also have now a battle pass. So obviously that was a point of early controversy for a lot of I guess players because they're kind of used to a system where they pay once and they have the game and they don't need to buy anything to get cosmetics. They can just play the game during the events or whatever and that's all good, right? this is obviously a bit of a different system where I guess it does encourage or incentivize putting money towards it so you can get those, more of those cosmetics. I don't know. I guess, like, do you have any thoughts on it? Do you feel like, hey, this is a great addition to the game, or yeah, I'm not sure about it? Yeah.
I was personally a pretty big fan of it when they brought it out, or even when they
Yeah.
announced it. And my main reason for that was we haven't paid for Overwatch in 6 odd years, unless you bought 40 Smurf accounts or whatever it is you chose to do.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
on the flip side of that is that like you're paying for regular content and you're paying for them to consistently make better things.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm personally not too big of a cosmetic fan. Like, I just like to just play the game. I'm happy to wear default skins. It doesn't really fuss me. But for the people that
Fair
like the
enough.
stuff and willing to spend the money on it, it's just like
Mm.
completely fair enough. You now have a battle pass and you can get all these really, really cool things over the
Yeah.
period. You now even get customizable skins, which is absolutely whack.
Yeah. True.
For people that don't want to pay, you don't have to. The
Mm.
only thing I think that people feel like they're getting a bit jibbed on is the fact that you have to unlock a hero on the battle pass. I believe it's at level 55, which is
Yeah.
Kuriko currently. I
Yeah.
feel like definitely that's quite a high level for
It
some
is.
people, especially without the XP multiplier and things
Yeah.
like that. But
For sure.
yeah, look, I definitely think the battle pass was a good addition because it allows Blizzard to obviously make more money in the long scheme of things. It allows them to make better content for all of us to play.
Yeah, no, for sure. Look, I actually have the exact same opinion as you regarding that sort of thing. I think at the end of the day, if it does provide, those artists or those developers or whoever it is that's actually creating this content, if it's giving them the resources, that's a good thing, right? So yeah, I do agree though. The 55 is a little bit high. I do wonder if they will change that in the next battle pass. I'm not sure. But yeah, it is a little bit high because I guess you don't necessarily want to have functionality impeded behind I guess a progress or paywall too much. But I guess I draw a little bit of a comparison, and I don't know how much you've played at Valorant.
Hmm.
Um,
I've installed it 3 times and uninstalled it 3 times.
understandable, understandable. That's all good. With Valorant, right? There's this kind of thing where you have to opt in to actually activate an agent's contract, or I guess an agent is a hero. And you have to get to, I guess, level 5 worth of XP, which doesn't necessarily take a super long time, but you don't necessarily get the character on release. Now, you can essentially pay money to actually get around that. But again, that's kind of the same thing with Overwatch here. So I guess it kind of surprises me that so many people I suppose, had that concern when this has already existed before. And to be honest, it hasn't really impeded on people too much. So I don't know. That's just an interesting observation I made there.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that people were really, I guess, worried about from that same regard was the fact that Overwatch is a hero or a game based on heroes being able to counter heroes.
Yeah.
So for them to be in a competitive game and be like, "No, sorry, bro, I don't have Kuriko," it's
Yeah,
just
of
like
course.
that's where people were getting a little upset by it. But then at the same
Yeah.
time, too, like it's like you can just level up and get the hero anyway and just not play
Yeah.
competitive and not worry about it, or you can get the battle pass and
Yeah.
there's a few ways around it. So again, I don't really see that being an issue in the long run for people.
Yeah. No, that's entirely fair enough. And look, I think that's very valid and very true. And I guess in all of this, with all these new features and things that have, come about and all that, I'm hoping that we are able to, I guess, attract and retain a player base that can be sustained with the new content and the, I guess, what actually happens in the scene itself. Because, look, if I'm going to be honest, while we were in Overwatch 1, there was an overall kind of decline in player base over time in OC at the very least, and probably in other places too. And I guess this is kind of what the franchise needed to, rejuvenate things, to kind of get things up off the ground again, which I'd like to think has happened, but I would really be interested in seeing how they continue that and keep people interested. I think that's like the biggest thing. Because I don't know if you remember, like at the beginning of Overwatch, there were a lot of things that were happening. I mean, prior to I guess more restrictions on events and stuff like that, there were so many events happening back in the day. A lot of people kind of reference things like the Overwatch Apex tournament that happened before Overwatch League and how big that was and all that sort of stuff. So I guess I'm really hoping that we can see a lot of, I guess, engagement and involvement with stuff like that, and all these opportunities kind of begin to appear. So
100%. Like I think
yeah,
already like starting now, like you're starting to see there's a lot more involvement from Blizzard
yep,
working with content creators and actually showing a little bit more love for the community and
yeah,
creating really cool events as
for
well.
sure.
Like I think the fact that they're doing really cool things over on Twitch and doing Twitch drops for the streamers for starters is already a really cool sign of it. And prior to release,
Yep,
they actually were doing like the supporter streamer thing where they had people gift subs for the Brig skin, which was quite cool as well. So
true.
it's good to see that Blizzard's actually starting to really appreciate the creator community and how everyone's sort of stuck it out for them over the years as well, especially with the game being quite low in content. So
Yeah,
I definitely think there is a big future for Overwatch 2. I think they definitely will do some good things to retain player base, and I've had already some friends of mine that are hardcore like Warzone players or Apex players actually come over and be like, "I am not moving off this game." So
yeah.
it's a pretty damn good sign to start with, that's for sure.
Very nice. And yeah, that's super, super good to hear. 100%. And I guess speaking about content, I guess we'll really address it now. Obviously, you are a content creator. You've been streaming for a while. Did you want to, I guess, break down your journey with streaming?
Yeah, it was actually quite crazy. I was back in the day, like when I was on Xbox, it was quite a lengthy process to like upload like videos over onto like Instagram and things like that. So you'd have to record it on the Xbox, upload it to cloud memory, then download it onto the phone and edit it on the phone. Back then, I was
Yeah.
editing, I think, with iMovie, uh, and yeah. So I actually used to always upload my Overwatch plays onto an Instagram page just because it was quite easy for
Okay.
me to find, just so I could show like my brother or people that I knew in real life actually that played Overwatch. I'm like, hey, look at this
Yeah.
play. Um, Pretty much down the track, I started to get a lot of traction on there, and people actually started, commenting and being like, "Oh, dude, do you stream? Do you stream? Do you stream?" So I thought, you know what, I'm actually going to give this a crack. So I actually
Yeah.
started streaming on Xbox with just a headset, literally just the Xbox and the Twitch app itself. So I had no
Oh,
cam,
yeah.
I had no overlays, I had
Of
nothing.
course.
It
Of
was
course.
just the standard stock standard stream. And you know what?
Yeah.
It was good fun. Like I absolutely loved it. And I think it was in my first week. I always looked. I always wanted to get Twitch affiliate, which wasn't really too hard initially to get. But I never forget. I don't know if you guys remember the streamer. His name's Derek Overwatch. Who he moved over to
So,
Valorant.
I think so. Yep.
Yeah, he actually rated me. I think it was with like over 1,000 people in like one of my
Oh,
first week
whoa.
of streaming. It was just ridiculous, and
That's insane.
it was nuts. Like it was absolutely
Yeah.
nuts. So then I'm just like, you know what? Like this is actually really cool. And I had a lot of people, from that stream as well, really like motivate me. So I'm like, I'm actually going to give this a crack. So
Yeah.
I did console for a few years. I organized heaps of like OC tournaments and things like that. But then it got to a
Oh,
point with like, how can I say, content creation. It started to get a little bit stale because again, OC was quite small. I
yeah.
became quite popular on the console world. So I had a lot of people who like, just doing like little things like sabotaging games and things like that. So I was just like, you know what, look,
Of course.
I'm done with
Yeah.
this, and
Yeah.
I moved over onto PC. So that's when I started moving on, started playing on PC, started streaming from PC, and I had to
Yeah.
upgrade all of my stuff that I had here to actually make it viable.
Of course.
And once I got it all up and running, it was great. Like it just added a lot more diversity, added a lot more opportunities into content as well. And as a player, I wanted to get better, and it was one of the best things I could do just for myself and for Overwatch as well. So it made content a little bit better
Yeah.
in the long run. So
Fair enough. No,
yeah.
that's totally understandable, and I mean, it's awesome to be able to see that you're actually, able to grow over time by actually exposing yourself to areas that, have more content and being able to interact with it essentially.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. That's really cool for sure.
Yeah.
So I guess, I don't know, would you say that over the time that you've been on PC, you've been really kind of going at it, grinding at it, or has it kind of been a gradual thing as well?
It was a gradual thing, man. I was more of a quick play player when I was streaming initially, like maybe a good 2 and a bit years of it. I was
Wow.
streaming mostly quick play. I
Okay.
was very casual. I'm very community
Yeah.
based. So I talk a lot when I stream. I don't know if you guys have watched one before, but
Yeah.
even when I'm like in the depths of fighting a fight, I'm still talking shit with chat. So
I've seen that. It's great.
yeah, so I don't know. That's just how I am, I guess, when it comes to like with streaming. Like, I always thought of it, well, if I'm going to be streaming on Twitch, like I don't want to be that person that's like hardcore into the game and not like
Yeah.
communicating at all, because it defeats the
Yeah.
whole purpose of really streaming.
True.
I'm not
Yeah.
that good at the game where I'm like an Overwatch League pro and you're admiring all my little tech, but
Yeah, of course.
I guess it's more of an entertainment thing. But yeah, like I enjoy that aspect of it. So I always try to make things as fun as I possibly can.
Yep. No,
And
100% understandable.
yeah, now I guess we just stream a bit more competitive because I don't know, I just enjoy it more now. So
Okay, fair enough. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Oh, that's really good. And yeah, I guess the fact that you actually were so casual about it for such a long time, I mean, that's interesting. I guess it surprises me a little bit, only just because, you have been playing, at Masters and GM and all that sort of stuff. You've been playing at that level, and there aren't that many people who I know who play around that sort of level that are just playing the game really casually most of the time. So that is a very interesting kind of approach to it all. I guess yeah, if it's what you wanted and what suited you, then absolutely, I think power to you. Um, I
yeah,
guess.
like
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you go.
I was just gonna say, like, it's just one of those things where I feel like there's a lot of people that play the game more casually. That
Yeah.
if they just apply themselves, they can play at that rank. It's just that they
Yeah.
just don't want to do it, and it's
Yeah.
understandable too.
Oh, 100%, 100%. It definitely is. Yeah, and you've seen it before, 100%. Um, okay, so I guess you mentioned that it's been what, like 2 and a bit years since you kind of got onto PC and was streaming from there. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, right. So it's interesting because you essentially, it sounds like you started amidst the whole COVID pandemic, right? So I don't know. I guess how has it been? Pretty much just mainly been streaming in that time frame, and I guess now that not necessarily out of it, but things are a bit more relaxed than they were before. Have you kind of seen any sort of change in regards to maybe all that, or not really?
Um, in terms of viewship, it would probably say it was a lot more in COVID, but
Okay.
I guess that was the thing was that everyone was sort of staying home. I was
Yeah.
streaming during the day, obviously due to my weird work hours that we were talking about.
Yeah.
The I guess the change to it would be that since I've been streaming more during the day, I've now got a little bit more of an American audience than probably what I do of an Australian audience, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
So I find that this time zone is just insane because from 10 a.m. in the morning, I think it's about like 5 o'clock over in California.
Yeah. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
You're pretty much playing in peak time. So the
Yeah.
quality of your games are phenomenal. The
Mm.
people are all online and playing. Like you're pretty much amongst their weeknights,
Yeah.
and it works quite well. Like
Mm.
I don't know. I guess everyone kind of picked up a little hobby that they did within that sort of 2 year period. And
Of
I've
course.
met some people that come up with some real interesting things. And
Yeah.
I just happened to have picked up PC in that time. So
Yeah. Fair enough, fair enough. No, that's totally understandable. I mean, honestly, like a lot of people, I feel actually picked up either gaming or kind of getting into that sort of thing over COVID because I mean, you're inside, you have the internet in front of you, but I guess gaming is a very, I don't know, it's a fun thing. Ultimately, it should be hopefully fun. So I can definitely see why so many people picked it up, and maybe why that viewership was also higher because more people were kind of around. Um, right, okay. So we've covered, I guess the past and right up until this point. And obviously, from what I've seen, honestly, your stream's been going pretty well, which is awesome to see. And I have noticed that you've interacted a fair bit with chat while you're in the middle of fights. I don't understand how you do it, but you do it. Beats me, honestly. Um, but I guess here you are now, and this might be a tricky one to answer. What are your overall goals?
it's a good question.
Yeah.
Um, I guess look, eventually the goal in the long run would be to move into full-time content creation.
Yep.
Obviously it's quite a hard thing to get into, especially with it being a full-time thing. I mean, I've been
Yeah.
fortunate enough over the years to, collaborate with a whole bunch of different brands and
Yeah.
different businesses, which has been a great experience as well. And there's
Yeah.
only things that can, probably get better. Eventually that would definitely be the goal. Look, I've even considered sometimes, playing at a professional level or trying to potentially get into something professional.
Yep.
But I feel like that's not my calling. I feel like I'm definitely a lot more, I guess, suited to streaming and more of the entertainment side of things, whether that's making videos and things like that. So I feel like, moving forward in the future, I definitely would like to move into that sort of field there, maybe even potentially working in the field of gaming. I'm not too sure, but ideally I'd love to keep doing what I'm doing with my content and, eventually make that a full-time thing. So
Yeah. For sure, for sure. Look, I think that's a really awesome goal to have. I mean, it's one of those things that's probably not exactly the easiest thing in the world to do because, content is quite saturated and all that sort of stuff. So it is a bit of a journey to get there. But I think, yeah, if you have the drive and you got the resources, then you can absolutely do that 100% of the way. Um,
Absolutely.
I'm frozen apparently. Oh, that's. Aye, aye. It is what it is.
It is what it
Um,
is.
give me a sec.
You're all right.
Um, but yeah, this is my phone. Amazing. Um, okay, well, I guess yeah. So, all right. So those are your goals. Pretty good goals to have. Difficult market to maybe get into, but it is good that you're able to do that. And honestly, if you have the resources and you have the drive, you can get there, 100%. Um, I guess it should be said, considering this is kind of I guess, an esports sort of thing. Do you see yourself as a content creator getting involved in the esports side of things much?
I would love to be working with esports and teams and creating content with teams. If I'm going to be honest with you,
Yeah.
I feel like I have a lot to offer.
Yeah.
Not only just from a content perspective, but also from a creative mind perspective. I'm quite good with ideas, so I feel like I can definitely add a lot of value to teams. I had the
Yeah.
opportunity to work with New York Excelsior for a little bit, but it was something I chose not
Wow.
to do. So
Okay, right. Gotcha, gotcha. Well, that's pretty cool. Bloody hell. Hats off to you once again. I'm not wearing a hat, but look, if I had one, I'd be tipping it.
it'd be gone.
Left, right, and center. Exactly. It'd be flying off my head. Um, that's really cool, and I think in a lot of ways you can find that content creation and stuff like. Has it done it again? No.
Oh,
Okay, we're
you're
okay.
right.
Um, content creation in esports. I mean, I feel like in a lot of cases they can very much work hand in hand. Um, I mean, you see it all the time, really, with the content partners for different organizations and all that sort of stuff. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that you are involved with one.
With Huntsman Esports, I've been doing
Yeah.
a little bit of work with them recently. It was only probably from about maybe July or August this year. It hasn't really been too long. So doing a little bit of work with them, sort of coming into Overwatch 2 and with their contenders B side as well. I've just been doing a little bit of practice there. Actually, just kind of just been helping in scrims and things like that. So
Wow, that's awesome. That must be a pretty good experience. Yeah.
phenomenal.
Very nice, very nice. I guess I should also ask, have you actually been involved with the team scene much yourself, or not really?
Not too much itself, no. It was more so just being in sort of just scrims and just a little bit of work just in the discords and things like that. But from the
Yeah.
content side, I think we've got a few things coming up before the end of the year, but not too
Ooh,
much. So,
exciting. Very nice.
mm.
Well, keen to see it for sure. No, that's really cool, and I think yeah, that's a pretty good summary of I guess how your whole journey has been with gaming and Overwatch and streaming and all that sort of stuff. So I guess with all of that, all of that in mind, was there anything else that you may I guess want to add or anything like that on top of what we've discussed?
um, no, I feel like we've pretty much covered everything today. I think we've had a pretty good chat about, I guess, like content and Overwatch 1, moving into Overwatch 2, and things like that. So I think it's all been pretty well covered today, I'd say.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, look, that's really good to hear. So, look, thank you very much for having this chat with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Fantastic guy, very fun to chat with. Make sure to take a look at the socials. He's got some socials in the description of this post, so take a look at that. Lovely guy. Catch his stream sometime, please. He's very interactive. Yeah, so I guess any closing remarks from your end?
Just keep one trick in your hero until you make it.
That's amazing. Oh, classic. All right, that works. We'll take that. All right. You guys have a great day ahead.
Thank you
Cheers.
so much for having me.
Thanks, man. Bye.